Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Love the Journey interview series. Today, we are here with Nikki, who is a Death Doula, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what it is and her journey in this career that she chose. And it is very curious, I would imagine many people say. So, Nikki, welcome to the show. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the work that you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. So my name is Nikki. I'm a death doula. I'm located in Ohio in the United States. And so death doulas, the quickest way I can think of to describe it is we provide non-medical and holistic support to the dying and to their loved ones to kind of help them navigate the end of life process. So that can look anything like just helping get the logistics taken care of, like what paperwork you might need done. Getting the services set up you might need, and then a lot of emotional and holistic support as far as the grief that comes along with a terminal diagnosis and the anxiety around looking at your own mortality and looking at your impending end of life and your family members as well, knowing that somebody in their life is going to be facing this and they have to now be witness to it and help them caregive at the end of life. So yeah, it's just kind of help navigating all of the emotional and spiritual needs for people all around end of life and thereafter.
Okay. What is it that you most love about the work that you do?
Um, I I'm a sucker for storytelling and for listening to people's
Me
stories.
too.
I've always been that way. I love
I love
listening to
it.
other people's stories.
Yeah.
So, getting to know the people I work with and their families and understanding their whole family dynamic and the story of who they are and how they got to, this point in their life, where they are, wherever they might be. Just learning about their history and then understanding that. And part of why I love that is it's just fascinating to me to hear other people's interactions and their upbringings, but also I love using that to help them cultivate an end of life experience that's fitting for them and valuable for them so that they can leave the world feeling a little more at peace and a little more ready with the whole process and just have
Yeah.
everything basically go as smoothly and as gently as possible. So that's always my
Yeah.
favorite part of what I do.
Okay. Do people know what they want? I find that like being in consulting, it's like my business is analytics. And a lot of the times when I have my discovery call with clients, I like asking them, why did you start this business? Why is this important for you, right? And sometimes I find interesting how what we end up doing that they had in mind, but that was going to be the project, is different from what they actually wanted to do, like, but more like putting the person
Mhm,
first before the service that I'll provide. Then my
mhm.
question for you is, do you notice any shift between like when you start uncovering what is it that they really want from an idea that they thought they had that their service would be about?
Yeah, I almost all the time. And it's not so much the logistic things, but more like when people bring me on, a lot of a lot of times they don't know exactly what to expect with me, like what all I'm gonna do and if I'm gonna be in their face all day, which I'm not. But they don't quite fully grasp what I'm there for. And then once I start talking to them and getting to know them, asking the right questions to help get to understand their whole spirit, their whole being, and their whole family dynamic. They start to get the feeling that they learn that I'm a safe space that they can talk openly with, and B, they start understanding like the things they need to start considering before their end of life, like those regrets they might have that they haven't got to work through, unfinished business, or just what they want to do as far as a legacy, what they want to leave behind for their family and the world, like how they want to be remembered. And most people don't think about those things until they're kind of faced with it and questioned on it. So, yeah, I think a lot of people don't fully understand just how valuable I can be to them in their whole process.
Okay. What I have, I watch a lot of near-death experience videos. I'm
Ooh,
obsessed
yeah.
with like spirits and karma and reincarnation. I'm super into those topics. And what have you learned that is it that is like in the end of life, people ultimately in the bottom line, that is really important for them? What common thread that you see that what this thing of living is really about?
Yeah, I think most people, and just from what I've seen, most people really have an anxiety around being forgotten, and just having everything that culminated their entire existence ending when they die. And that's, in my opinion, that's not always the case because, whatever you believe about what happens after life, we continue to live on through other people after we are gone.
I
And
agree.
yeah, right. Even if it's just a matter of, my grandmother who passed away probably 20, 30 years ago at this point, she had like the best chili recipe. And that was given to my mother, and my mother gave it to me. And like I make every time I make this chili, that's my grandma's chili, right? So,
Yeah.
and I always remember her when I make that. And, I might pass that on to my niece or somebody else. And then they'll say, this was that lady's grandma's chili. So we live on in little things continuously. And I feel like once people see and recognize that a part of them will continue on after they are gone, they feel a little more at ease with the situation.
Okay, how important is love in that process? Because a lot of my readings and studies in the topics, like a lot of times I see this very common thread in topics that relates to like the love that you feel in yourself, but
Mhm.
also, as you said, when we die, and then like our engagement with people and the emotion that they feel with the memories that you have are also very important. It's about you and the people
Yeah.
around you, right? And I was wondering if you have noticed any concept of like people talking about love, both for themselves, for each other, for environment.
Yeah, absolutely. I think love plays a huge part into end of life and beyond. I work with a lot of people on grief as well. I do grief coaching, and I stick around and help the family after their loved one has died to help them navigate the new scary world of grief because at least in Western cultures, we don't deal with this well. We don't talk about death, dying, and grief like
Yeah.
ever. So we don't have these conversations. So when we're faced with it, we don't know what to do. But the minute I explain to somebody that all grief is love, the expression on it, they just shift immediately and they suddenly realize that it doesn't have to be so sad, and it doesn't have to be so, and it is sad because your person's no longer there, but that grief you're feeling, all that is just love with nowhere to go. And it's
Wow, that's
yeah,
beautiful way to put it.
thank you. Yeah, it's so powerful for them to see that and then know that
Yeah.
that that feeling they had, that feeling of love they had for their person can just keep going on afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. Um, when you started get into this business, into this career, did you know that that's what's going to be like, or you just kind of you were doing that one job and it was like, oh, I'm interested in this, and then you shifted. How was that little bit of understanding navigation towards that?
Sure. Well, and I I haven't been doing this my whole life. I'm, approaching 50 at this point. I just started
What?
my practice. I know.
I thought it was like 20.
No, gosh, no. I wish. Um, no, I just opened up my practice about 4.5 years ago. So I've only been doing this for about, well, yeah, right about 4 years now. And I worked in a corporate job before this. I worked in IT, and, so I kind of came to this, but there's always been a part of me that is a deeply spiritual and compassionate person. And I usually, my outlet for that was volunteer work. I volunteered in nursing homes, hospice. I volunteered at the suicide hotline for a while as well. And it's just, I had all this compassion to use. And then, during COVID, like a lot of other people, I was kind of reevaluating my life, and I knew what
Like
death doulas
IT,
were.
you were dead
Right.
inside already. So it was like, what
Right.
the?
Well, and this kind of fits in with the scope of what your show is here because I realized I just did not want to spend the rest of my life behind a desk working with computers and cell phones. Like that just it did not appeal to me at all. And I
Yeah.
thought I started thinking about my own legacy and how I wanted to be remembered. And I wanted to do something for this world that was more meaningful than just computers and phones, right? So
Yeah.
death doula work just spoke to me so deeply, and I went through my training. And day one, I was like, "This, why have I not been doing this my whole life?" So I I I already kind of knew what it would be like because I've like I said, I've been in this capacity in a way through my volunteer work. But I never realized like how fulfilling it would be and just how like how many different services I can provide. There's so much more than just holding space and being present for people at end of life that goes into what I do. And I'm still learning more things every day.
Okay. Out of the many different, as you said, the different things that you can be doing within that career, how do you shift things and situations to an area that is where you want to spend more time doing?
Well, I let my clients lead me as to what they need. And yeah, I would love to just, sit and help people rate their legacy and go through their storytelling, but sometimes they really need help with logistical support.
Okay.
And I
Yeah.
gotta, put my social worker hat on and help them find the right services that are available that they can afford, that they're eligible for, and help them with the paperwork and cleaning out somebody's house. Like there's a lot of nitty gritty work that's not my favorite, but I don't mind at all. I let them lead me, and whatever they're needing in the moment and, throughout the process of my working with them is what I will give to them. Within limits, obviously there's some things I'm not medically trained, so I can't administer medications. I would not pretend to be a lawyer in any
Yeah.
capacity, so I can't do anything, legally binding with their documents. But outside of that, within reason, I can do just about anything for them.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. And it's really a great reminder of like, even if you are in a career that you chose and you are doing something that you love, everywhere there's always going to be something that's like, this side I don't want to do it. That's not my favorites. There are other things I would prefer to be doing. Nonetheless, it is still there, it's something to still enjoy and appreciate as part of the package,
Right,
right?
right,
And
right.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then as you navigate this space of really finding the thing that you love to do and developing the skill set, what did you learn about yourself that you had no idea as you kept getting more involved in this work?
Yeah, I honestly, if I'm gonna be really brutally honest here with you and your listeners, I learned a lot about my own coping with my own grief and my own losses. I've had a couple of very significant deaths in my life prior to me even starting this line of work. And as I learned more about grief and helped hold people in their journeys with in their own personal journey with grief, I started realizing that I had a lot of unresolved grief in my life that I needed to start looking at and facing. And with that, I've, learned better. I've started working through my own losses, and it's definitely felt very freeing, but I've also felt more comfortable with my own mortality because I'm seeing it all the time. And just starting to understand my legacy, what I want to leave behind for the world. I've always, we always have these great big dreams of like, I want to be remembered for whatever, XYZ.
Yeah,
But I really started contemplating more like what kind of, because I don't have children, so I don't have like that physical embodiment of me
yeah, me
living in the
too.
world after
Yeah,
I'm
I was
gone.
like, I have to find something else.
Yeah, so I gotta figure something else out, but I think I spend more time now thinking about what I want, like my gifts that I want to leave behind for the world and how to do that. So those are probably the biggest things I've learned.
Okay, okay, that's amazing. Yeah, so I'm the same boat of like I don't have kids and I don't plan to have, so I'm gonna be doing my thing. And I find that because I'm very well very involved in education, so that's something that I want to be able to support more education around the world, and I have a business that I can it kind of it keeps circulating that money to different institutions and they help people in professional development and so on. That's kind of where I see that, I can contribute. Do you mind sharing a little bit about what you feel like it could be something that would satisfy you?
Like how I want to be, how I'll be remembered in the world.
Yeah, yeah, just like
Mhm.
how it came into that. That's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, so like I said, I know it tends to be in our nature to want to have some great big grandiose thing that we're remembered for, but I'm more and more becoming comfortable with just knowing I don't maybe there'll be a dozen or so people in the world that felt affected or changed by my presence and my compassion for them and their most vulnerable states, that will stick with them, and they in turn will have a little more empathy and compassion for the next person in their life. So, and even people I don't work with that don't hire me as a doula, just people I interact with or spaces where I go to talk like this about what I do, like there might be one person in the crowd who's so affected by what I say that they change something in their life to
yeah.
lead a slightly better existence. And if I can just have, a dozen or so people in the world that maybe have a slightly better path of existence because of something I've done for them or said to them, that's perfectly wonderful to me.
That's amazing. It's really about the ripple effect, right? That
Mhm.
sometimes we don't even know that we are having certain effects on people's lives with the thing that we say, but it is like we have a real effect. I remember that when I was in university, I was talking to this friend, and then we were talking about the time we wake up. And then I told him that I like waking up early because when I wake up late, I feel bad because it feels like I'm wasting life. And
Yeah.
that's just like something I said, And then a couple of weeks later, we were talking again, and then he said, Claudio, I started waking up earlier because of the thing that you said about
Oh,
wasting life. It really
yeah.
changed. And it's funny. It's like I wasn't trying to advise you, to coach you or anything, but it just caused that, right?
Yeah, I'm the same way. I love to wake up early. I feel if I lay in bed past like 6 or 7 in the morning, I'm like, "Oh my God, I just wasted so much time."
Right? It feels like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, yeah. And then as you navigate this space of the different things that you can do, and you're doing what you love, and finding yourself, and how it guides even on how you operate with people. Have you heard from the people around you the differences that happen in you when you were navigating that space, when you were doing the job just for the sake of doing job, and then now that you are really in a space of doing what you love, and how
Mhm.
you framed your behavior with people, your interaction? What type of feedback do you get from that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so if I think back to my corporate days working in IT, I mean, I'd be hard pressed to get a thank you most days for any amount of work I did. Unless I did something really amazing or went above and beyond for whatever, I might get a wow, that was amazing, thank you. Um, but that would be about it. Most of all, I feel like in that type of environment, the work you do is expected, so a thank you isn't necessary. And maybe I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
it's nice to
It's
be
like you are
praised
doing
for
the
what you
job, right?
yeah,
You're
it's
just
like
paid to do that. So
yeah, we're paying you to do XYZ, just do it. Where
yeah,
which I mean, same now I'm being paid to do a different type of job, right? And but it's what I do is more tied into human emotion and experience and not necessarily just something to make money on or,
yeah,
a physical product. It's more a lifestyle and I do get thanks, in different ways. And I get people who are so happy that they have had a more fulfilling experience with their loved one at their loved one's end of life. So I mean, I've been invited to funerals of people I only knew for a short period of time because
yeah,
I had such an impact for the family. So, yeah, it's a far cry from a corporate job for sure.
yeah, yeah. I hear you. What did you notice any difference between the people I don't know if you worked with a lot of business owners or people that are in that corporate space in the end of life. That was wondering if you notice any difference in the end of life perception from the people that were more like creators, family oriented, and
Mhm.
relationship, and those that were more like in the work, in the grind,
Mhm.
living for that. Do you notice any, and like the
Yeah.
operators and the creators? Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the biggest difference I would notice is if thinking about myself and what I do versus like an assisted living facility or a nursing home, if you will, a place where somebody goes to spend their final years of life. There's obviously going to be very different interactions there versus with me. More so because if you have, and I'll just use as an example, a nursing home or a senior living facility, you've got a residence of, I don't know, maybe 200 people in it and a staff of 10, right?
Mm,
So you've got like 20 people per one staff member. So they can't keep track of every minute of every day. And they don't have time to sit down with somebody who's scared or sad. And grief among senior citizens is highly underrecognized because they're watching people around them die all the time.
yeah.
And they're also watching themselves die and they're alone and they may not get as many visits as they would like from their family because their family's busy. So,
That's so
but
heartbreaking.
I know,
Just even,
believe me,
even hearing that, yeah, I
I
feel
know,
like, oh my God, I live so
I
long.
know.
And yeah,
I wish I could fix that, but it's just there's a and at least right now there's such a huge number gap between the people, senior citizens, and people who are caretakers. There's just more of them because the generation that's in there right now, that's the baby boomer generation,
yeah.
and it was called baby boomer for a reason. That generation is enormous.
Yes,
There's way too many people, and so they can't get that individualized care that they might want or need. And then when somebody like me can come in, now granted, there's only one of me and I can only work one person at a time, or, I can have 3 or 4 clients at a time, but I can give them, I can devote more time to them to really work on their emotional needs and their fear and their anxiety. And they're going to get practical care. They're going to get, bathing, changing, food, laundry. Like they're going to get the practice, but nobody's going to sit down and hold their hand and ask them how they're feeling today
yeah.
or why they're scared or what they might want to do before they go. So those are the things that our system, at least here in the US, we can't facilitate for that. We just can't. It's not a possibility. Even if they really want it, they can't. So that's where people like death doulas can come in.
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's so mind-blowing, right?
Mhm.
I find that so upsetting. And here in Canada, it's the same situation. They always talk about being understaffed, then try to bring people from abroad, and they try. But for the people that are there waiting, right, I can just imagine how heartbreaking it should be
Mhm.
to be in that situation. And Um, still in the topic of the legacy, and
Yeah.
then for the senior that you are helping in terms of legacy, do you find any difference in the way that like an entrepreneur the entire life, or like someone that worked in a specific industry the entire life? See the end compared to a person that was more like family oriented, more like on the relationship side, would see the legacy?
Um, I haven't personally seen that with the clients I've worked with. I have seen it with people in my life or people around me. And there's definitely a feeling of regret when it comes to end of life for that person who may have spent their entire life just focused on their career. Depending on what that career was. Like if it's
Yeah,
me, obviously I'm passionate about my career. I'm gonna, I will be very happy about that. But
yeah,
somebody who did, I don't know, whatever other type of job, and they just maybe spent more time focused on that career and a little less time on their loved ones or their family, friends, people in their life. And then they get to the end and they realize none of those, that office isn't going to show up for my funeral. It's my family and I barely know them.
Yeah.
versus the people who spent one of my first clients, I'll never forget her because she was a very family oriented person, and she was like, her and her daughters were so close. It was so beautiful to watch their family at end of life, and she spent so much of her time focused on her career, but she had such a good balance that she spent a lot of time with her daughters as well. So they had nobody felt any real regrets at the end of that. They all felt pretty, you know, compassionate with each other at the end of life. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I happen to also like to watch interviews with the seniors because
Hmm.
I like to see what they
Yeah.
went through all of it and just like
Yeah.
teach you something. I'm a knowledge seeker, right?
Hmm.
And the one very common thread in what they say when like the interviewer asks them, so what advice would you have? What would you have done differently, right?
Hmm.
What did you learn? Whereas like 95% of the time they say, I wouldn't have taken life so seriously. I would have taken more time to travel and enjoy my friends. You know, it's
Hmm.
just like I just worked, and I get here, it's like I retired. And now I can travel. It is comfortable, but I can't work a lot. Hard to make friends, can't go to places, right? So just like give yourself a break. Don't
Yeah.
just like enjoy life a
Yeah.
little bit. We're just young ones and all this stuff. And I'm
Yeah.
there watching, just like they are literally telling us what
Yeah.
not to do and how just to
Yeah.
do the thing called life. And everyone's
Yeah.
like, no, money, 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 get stuff, stuff, stuff. And in the end, none of that really matters.
No, and that was a valuable lesson I learned too, because obviously I wasn't making scads of money in corporate America, but I had a comfortable living. I had the 401k and the benefits, like all the things, and I don't have any of that now. And I'm making probably less than half what I made at that job doing what I do, but I am so much happier right now because I've
Yeah,
got the flexibility and the freedom to go travel if I want to. I can take off for a week vacation with my husband, or go hiking this weekend instead of worrying about a project deadline, right? I have that flexibility, but um and there's so much of that too. I totally agree when you see people who are at their end of life and you listen to their regrets and they're like, why did I take stuff so seriously? Like life is so, if you learn nothing else, life is short. No matter how long it is, it's short.
yeah,
I've seen people who are in their 90s who are like, that went by too fast. I can't believe it's over already. Like, life is too short to take all that crap so seriously. Just what's going to make you happy? Do it, you know?
yeah, yeah. How was this? Um, yeah, so many questions.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. How did you go about realizing that there was when you were in corporate America, like planning this transition for you, just like, okay, I have this amount saved, I can start working on taking this course part time in the evening, in the actual like taking the actual
Mhm.
steps to move to steer yourself in a direction
Yeah.
that like I want to go now. Now it's my journey, not
Yeah.
this person's journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I tried to be as smart smart and strategic as I could with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because believe me, there were times where I really just wanted to quit my job so bad, like just give them tell them where to stick it and run out the door. But I knew that would not be the wisest choice.
Yeah.
I planned my exit for probably 2 years. Um, and
Oh,
when I immediately had the thought, for the longest time, I thought about leaving and just getting another full time job, right? And then when I started realizing that that wasn't a path I had to take, it kind of opened my eyes a bit. And I thought, wow, maybe I could start my own business. I could do something different, but no idea where to start. So I started just researching, what's it like to start your own business? What type of things do you need? What do you have to be thinking about? And like the day I had that thought, I immediately opened another savings account, and just every little extra bit of money I dumped in there, and like a little bit of every paycheck I put in there to let that build up, so that when the time did come, I could quit my job without having nothing. I
yeah,
also kept the full-time job when I opened my business. So I was still seeing clients while working full-time. And it just got to a point where it was not feasible to do that anymore, which is when I
yeah,
pulled the trigger to leave. So yeah, I just invested all my spare time in learning about running a business and learning about my work as a doula and how to run specifically this type of business. Because, I mean, no shade to anybody who's a coach, but there's a million programs out there to be a coach and you can get 50 clients right away. And that's great.
Yeah,
This type of work is a little different. And it's hard for me to just dive in and have a million clients and make a bunch of money right out of the gate. It's
yeah,
just not going to happen. So,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, 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 that's true. And I find even when I was navigating, leaving academia, then finishing my PhD, then realizing that I did not want to be a professor and live in a lab for the rest of my life and live off writing grants, then
Mhm.
I was like, okay, what can I do? It's like I just spent my entire life building towards like I have a degree that now I don't wanna keep going this path that I built to myself. So I
Mhm.
had my midlife crisis in my 30s and really have to figure out what is it that I wanted to do moving forward. And then it's like, but coming from grad school, don't have savings, right? So kind of it was a different path, but definitely navigating this entire aspect of knowing what you need to do and websites and marketing and seeing all those hack for this and like get million clients and this and that,
Yeah.
and it's a lot of noise, right? There's a lot of things that people that you have to navigate through in order to get something that's like, okay,
Yeah.
this makes sense to me, this work for my case, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you go to navigate that? Like the because you knew that you needed to have the degree and then you will get in the official qualifications, but to actually be someone that is actually building like that page and it being
Mhm.
found. Do I want to be on social media? How do I want to do that? How did you go about coming
Ah,
up with your way
yeah.
around it?
That was a lot of trial and error, to be honest. And
Yeah.
I learned a lot of that as I did it. There was I learned a bit about how to start up an LLC and the those type of things, like the logistical things before I left my job. Once I was really in it full time and I had the time to spare because I wasn't working a full-time job to really start investigating these things, I just learned a lot of it by trial and error. Like I had to learn about SEO. Like I built a website. That was one of the first things I did was build a website because that's easy enough for me to do. I
Yeah.
knew how to do that. So I had a nice website, but I knew nothing about SEO. So I had to teach myself. So I'm like watching YouTube videos and reading all sorts of articles on how to build up your SEO and like what's needed with that. And then social media. Like what social media is something I've since given up on because
Yeah.
that changes every daggone day. Like,
Yeah.
trying to figure out the algorithms just, like, it's a moving target, and I don't have the energy, but the biggest thing I've learned with all of that is do what's gonna be right for you. You don't have to do something because I go to a lot of networking. I'm part of all these business development groups, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, you have to be on LinkedIn. You have to have social media. You have to." And
Have.
I finally got
Yeah.
to a point and I have a podcast too, like, "Well, you have to be doing this and you have to be doing this." And I finally got to a point where I'm like, "No, I don't have to do anything."
Turns out you were all wrong.
All right? I mean,
I just have to
it's
enjoy it, whatever
right.
we're doing. Yeah.
And it started sucking the fun out of everything because I started doing this because I love it. And I started
Yeah.
getting to be it was no fun. Like my podcast, I will be transparent. I make $0 on that podcast. I get no ad income. I get no revenue, mostly because I don't want to. My podcast is a passion project. I love that. And I don't, and everybody's like, well, you have to have a website for your podcast. It's like, no, I can just link to it on my website. Well, you have to have social media. No, I really don't. And
Yeah.
I don't have social media for my podcast because I don't want to. I would spend 5 hours of work for a half hour podcast episode to make all that stuff and to put it on all the platforms and to find all the algorithms and find the right hashtags. I'm like, I could spend 2 hours versus five, and I have the same amount of listeners. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny because like people are always like giving these advices coming from a place of no, if you are doing that, it is money, 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 grow, grow,
yeah,
grow, million, million, million,
yeah,
volumes, numbers, 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 right? And it's like there's always this aspect of like I'm doing it for the enjoyment of the process. I like
Right.
talking to people. If people come in because they like the conversation, like the successes that they like,
Yeah.
my mindset and how I talk and how I see
Yeah.
things. Stop coming for this thing of like, I have to find ads and this and that and this and that. It's
Right.
missing the point. I mean, I'm not monetizing my love. I'm not monetizing my passion. I'm
Yeah.
doing what I love. If
Yeah.
money comes in business, amazing, right?
Yeah.
But people
Yeah.
keep thinking like money, money, money all the time.
Yeah. And that's like I have a very good friend who runs a virtual assistant agency and she's very successful. And like one of the things that she gets the most benefit out of is networking, like nonstop networking. She's a member of a billion different groups. She has all these one-to-ones with people, and that's great and it works amazing for her. She's gotten so much work out of it. For somebody like me, I love networking. I still attend networking events, but the amount of networking that she does would not make sense for me because a lot of people are in these groups aren't necessarily going to have the same referral partners as me. Some of them might, and there's always you never know who somebody else knows, right? I
Mm-hmm.
might meet that one person who knows somebody else that goes to their church that will be the perfect person to get me 50 clients or whatever. So that's
Mm-hmm.
fine, and I still network, but the the style that she does would it's just it wouldn't work for me. So everybody's business types are very different, and what's going to work great for one is not necessarily going to work great for the next.
Yeah, yeah. And I found myself in the same trap even when I was trying to do more marketing and being on Instagram and having to make reels and all of that. And I'm like, no, that's not what I want to be doing. I don't want to keep
Yeah.
people social media. I want to take people out of social media and
Yeah.
into the real life and do stuff. I want to talk
Yeah.
to people. I want to bring
Yeah.
people in, you know. And for the longest time, I didn't do marketing really for my business because I was doing marketing because all the people were telling me that I should be doing instead of me finding the joy in how I want to
Yeah.
approach it, this journey. I want to wake up excited for the day
Mhm.
and what is coming next. Not like, oh, now I have to make 10 posts to make a video that is gonna turn
Yeah.
into 100
Yeah.
views that are just gonna stay there and hope for the best. And the
Yeah.
algorithm and this copy people, see what is working. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, can I not? Right?
I don't even like to go to my personal social media pages anymore. Like I don't even look at my personal Facebooks or Instagram. I don't look at
Yeah,
I just don't. And the last thing I want to do, if I don't want to look at it for myself, I certainly don't want to look at it for my business. It just that's me. Social media works so great for some people and they get
yeah.
so much out of it. Their ROI on their social media posts is like huge. For me, it's never been great, so it just wasn't worth the effort.
Yeah, same here, on the same boat there. Okay, amazing. If you had one piece of advice to a person that is looking to is start feeling that is like, I feel that there is something else out there. I don't feel that this path that I'm going for me. What would you tell them?
Well, I kind of already covered it in saying life is too short, do it, you know. I'm not necessarily saying quit your job right now and go,
Yeah,
do whatever your passion is, within reason, but don't there I just see so many people will say, I think doing this would be so cool. I don't know if I could actually do it, or I have to think about it, or and then they spend 7 years thinking about it, never actually doing it. If there's something you want to do, find one small thing you can do right now to push yourself towards that. For me, it was just signing up for the training program to become an end of life doula. I was, an expense and a large amount of time out of my life. But I thought, what am I going to lose? A little bit of money and a little bit of time if I decide I don't like this. But where I am now is the best investment I ever made. So take a training, take a class, read some articles, get a book from the library on whatever it is you want to do, and just start just those little steps. And every day, think of the next thing you can do to just push yourself in that. But don't wait and don't tell yourself you need to think about it or write your pros and cons list. Just take an
this
action.
SWOT
Take an action.
analysis, and it's like analyzing, that's like over
Yeah.
analyzing everything, right?
Yeah. I get analysis paralysis real easy if I try to overanalyze. Comes a
Same
point where it's
here.
like you're just wasting time at that point, or you're procrastinating because you're not sure. Just do something.
Yeah, yeah, it is definitely my thing too because I like I like seeing things big picture. I'm like a system thinkers guy. I like everything laid down there. So sometimes when I'm planning like a project, a funnel, some system automation, I take so much time planning and making sure that everything is in place that by the time that the thing is done, I have another project, there's other things to do, and in the end, the thing that I spent so much time planning never gets anywhere. Just to
Yeah.
become a folder
Yeah.
in my drive, and that's it.
Yeah.
Maybe one day I'll get back to that.
Yeah.
So less
Yeah.
thinking, less planning, less obsession, and just
Just
allow
do it.
yourself to explore and just do it,
Just do it.
learn with the process, and get
Yeah.
there.
Don't be that person who's on their deathbed saying, "Man, I wish I would have done whatever it is." Just do it.
Yeah, yeah. Another strategy that I learned not so long ago is even like if I was already in the field that I want to be working on, what communities I would be in, and sometimes
Mhm.
even like requests to get in there, see what people talk, see what is the dynamic there, just like do I feel like these are my coworkers? Do I want to have these conversations? And then people share links, and then you get to see so kind of see yourself in that space, right?
Mhm.
Surrounding yourself similar people,
Mhm.
then
Yeah.
decide it's like I'm not really liking this vibe, right? It's like
Yeah.
people are not.
Right. And I mean, you might decide like I really want to do this and you start it and you don't like it, and that's okay. I I didn't, I didn't plan to be in IT either. I kind of got put in that job and I enjoyed it for a period of time. It obviously didn't work out for me, but
Yeah,
that if you try something for a while and you don't like it, that's okay. You have the experience. You've at least done something, instead of just thought about it. Um,
yeah.
and like I've read something and I can't remember that average amount of times people shift careers in their lifetime is like 3 or 4 times, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so you tried something wrong, you didn't like it. Move on to the next thing. It's
Yeah.
again, life's too short to just worry about that.
Yeah, and there's also like that aspect of the pressure to get it right, right? And even like
Mhm.
to get started and find
Yeah.
that. I remember that even when the pandemic started, the universities closed here in Canada, and then I remember like I was watching the news with like international students that were going to study online instead of coming to campus, and people like, oh, missing the entire campus experience, right?
Mhm.
University. And then this guy was saying, yeah, no, I needed to go to the experience because I'm 22 years old. I'm running out of time. And then I was looking like, oh my God, so much pressure. What did they do to you? You have so
Yeah.
much time. Like,
Yeah.
relax, take your time, go explore. And
Yeah.
there's so much pressure.
And that was a pressure that was put on me. That was just the generation I grew up in was like, you immediately go to college after high school and you better know exactly what you're going to do with the rest of your life. At 18? Like,
Yeah,
that's what pressure to put on somebody who's still basically a child, you know?
yeah.
And everybody says, "Oh, you can't take you have to go immediately to college because if you don't, then you'll never go." And in my brain, I'm like, "Okay, so what?" So they don't have $200,000 in debt they can never pay off.
Exactly. And it's like,
Darn.
yeah, go talk to people, be creative, experience
Yeah.
stuff, and do things. Like it's
Live
help
life
with
a
the
little bit.
family, like make money a little bit, but like
Yeah.
explore, right? Get to know
Yeah.
yourself. So much
Yeah,
more
exactly. You
than a
gotta
user go.
try on 10 pairs of shoes before you find the pair that you like, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. I like that you have seen it a lot. Yes, amazing. Nikki, if you could leave one message for the world, if you could give like just spread this gift of a message, what would it be? What would you like the world to know and to pay more attention to?
Take the time to get to know people around you. And the reason I say that is there's a lot of divisiveness in the world, and a lot of times conflict between two people can be resolved if they just understand why the person feels the way that they do. If you can just take a little bit of time to understand why somebody believes something so strongly, you can maybe understand where I'm not saying you have to agree with people on anything, but when you really understand where somebody has come from and what led them to that point in their life, it's a little easier to understand why they might feel a certain way or believe a certain thing. So, and even if
Empathy, right?
yeah, and even if you don't agree, again, you at least have that understanding. You can be a little more compassionate to that person.
Yeah, yeah. That's so true and so important because we tend to think that if people don't think like us, they are wrong, they are
Mhm.
terrible people, this and that. And I find that I have this perspective on even like when I'm networking with people. That's like I'm never like seeing people front to front.
Mhm.
I say more like as if we are both like on our motorcycle, in this journey, in this ride. So now I talk to them and then I try to get to understand their view, their
Mhm.
perspective, right? And
Yeah.
from an understanding that they're coming from somewhere, they have a view of this environment that we are journeying together here.
Yeah.
So being able to navigate people from this idea of you have your journey, you have your understanding. Talk
Mm.
to me about what is it that you think.
Yeah.
I'm going to share my thought. I'm not there to criticize. I don't have any opinions about the way that you think. I may
Right.
disagree
Right.
greatly, but you are allowed to see it like that because you are in your own journey, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and even if it comes to like meeting people in different careers, like a good example, because like I said, I do a lot of networking, and let's just say I meet a real estate, and that this is actually a true story. I met somebody who's a real estate agent, lovely, lovely woman, but there's a million real estate agents. But when I started talking to her, I realized she told me the story of her whole life. She was unhoused. She was homeless for a period of time. She had nowhere to call a home. She went through a lot of trauma and she worked herself up to that. And she was like, I just want to make sure everybody has the home they deserve because I didn't up until this part of my life. And to hear it like in my brain, I'm like, there's a million real estate agents, la di da. But oh my God, that she went through all that and used that to give back in some way, to make sure people can have a home versus just I don't know. I think it's little things like that. You could brush somebody off for the career they have and not really understand why maybe they chose that career. Could have a
Yeah.
deeper impact. They might be trying to change something in the world.
Yeah. And I can see how your passion for storytelling, you really know the importance of knowing those stories, right?
Oh
And there
yeah.
are so many different ways and means that people
Mhm.
would have a similar circumstance but coming from a different place, and people that were in the same place get to a different
Yeah.
circumstance, right? And make those connections.
Yeah, I wanna know why people got to where they are, like, I wanna see their path.
Yeah, I'm very much like that, Joe. Amazing. Yeah, Nikki, thank you so much for taking the
Yeah,
time and sharing your story. Yeah, I very
absolutely.
much appreciate it. Yeah, and yeah, so everyone, thanks for so much for watching us and listening, and I'll see you next time. Thank you
Awesome,
all.
thank you.
Bye.